Hi guys, so welcome to today's video. It is one of the ones that I filmed for the advent calendar for December, so we're going to do that today. And this one is being inspired by Wassily Kandinsky. So I remember in year 9 my art teacher was very fascinated with him, and she was always talking about the Blue Writer, the Blue Writer group, and yeah, I think it's a really interesting art journey. And what we're going to kind of paint today, this is a very at face value, this is a very simple beginner's exercise. It's one that any of us can do, and it's basically gridding out a couple of pages in your notebook into some squares or on a piece of paper if you want to do it that way. And we're just creating concentric circles. So this is kind of a look into colour, so it's a bit of a colour study, and also form and shape as far as concentric circles and the squares, and kind of the relationship that they have to each other and kind of bring to the painting. So you can see that I am starting very pale, very light, and with kind of my favourite colours, with the pearl white, with a really watered out wash of the Chinabrese, which is a Wallace and Seymour colour. You can see it's like the second one down from where I was painting. That was the buff titanium. And so I'm just starting with kind of my own colour palette, my own colour choices, which are these really pale, almost whispers of colours. So but Kandinsky's a really interesting painter. So he's Russian born, and I think his grandmother was a Mongolian princess. His father was a tea merchant, so already there's a lot of colour in his history. And I think that kind of as he went through life, he had synesthesia. So when he would see a colour, he would hear a note, a musical note. And I think that is a really interesting something I've thought about, and I actually wanted to write about this for a thesis once, but there was just not really enough information about it. But it's a very fascinating thing. So like some famous musicians have synesthesia where they hear the note and they will see a colour. Like I remember reading that a jazz musician, he would play one of his the notes on his trumpet, he would think of really like a navy blue corduroy. So yeah, it's very interesting, kind of the mix of seeing one thing and thinking of another sense. So yeah, through Kandinsky's life, he says that he only created 10 compositions, proper finished artworks. I think it's 10, I could be wrong. And most of everything else he did was just studies for those artworks. But I mean, I really love, especially his early artworks. I'm going to link below to WassilyKandinsky.net. It's really beautiful artwork. And yeah, so one of the things that and you can see here that I am just basically playing with the colors. So I have gridded out my notebook, and and one of his most famous compositions, but I don't know that he would call it a composition, but one of his most famous artworks is this concentric circles and the colors that he creates, where he was probably more doing it like this, doing a kind of a color study. It's almost as if he creates chords and harmonies with color. So he's more looking at it musically. I think he uses geometric shapes more towards the end of his life, and yeah, he's sort of trying to bring the symphony onto the canvas. So one of the things that he hang on, so I've got I have the Wikipedia open here. So he says his devotion to inner beauty, fervour of spirit, and spiritual desire he called inner necessity. And this was a central aspect of his art, which I think is really nice. And then he says the catalogue, I'm sort of paraphrasing, but he says, the catalogue informed me it was a haystack. I could not recognise, the haystack. This non-recognition was painful to me. I considered that the painter had no right to paint indistinctly, which he actually does himself towards the end of his life. I duly felt that the object of the painting was missing, and I noticed with surprise and confusion that the picture not only gripped me, but impressed itself ineradicably on my memory. Painting took on a fairy tale power and splendour, which I think is a really lovely sentiment and just a way to think about painting. So yeah, I'm kind of taking that inspiration here as well. And for me, I really like shimmer colors. I like colors that are not light fast, like the fluorescent pink there. So I know that over time it will fade. A lot of times if I'm using it in a painting to sell, I'm going to mix it with a I really like mixing it with the Turner Pearl Red. It's actually like a pearlescent pink, so that I know that the mica will remain once the fluorescent pigment fades. So I'm always aware of that and thinking about that for the long term. But I also really love the immediacy of being able to use that colour and enjoy it now. And I think that's something that I learned when we were creating these really beautiful cakes, and I'll actually put some photos in at the end. They took such a long time to create, and you were using this fondant and for days kind of creating this cake, and then it was just gone within minutes. But that memory and the feeling that it gave to people is what was that's what it was, the important thing. And so I think I bring a little bit of that to the art. I want I don't want to sacrifice the immediate beauty and kind of nourishment, I don't know a different word, but something that will really be lovely to experience, just because I don't want the painting to fade in the long run. So I really am happy to use and especially in my sketchbook, or especially in a video like this, the video will remain even when this pigment fades. So I'm not really too worried about that, I guess, in some aspects, when I'm just doing it in my sketchbook. But I just love the color, so I can't I think I'll always use it. But you can see here that I'm just going back in as well with little bits of pencil and adding in some little splashes of color there, here and there, and that's pretty much it, guys. So it's just a really fun exercise. It's just a little bit of a way to think about painting. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I think it's something that will give you a lot of joy to do, to create one of these, and also just a way to play with colour, to look at colour, to watch how the paints flow into one another, or they don't. And so it can also teach you a lot about your paints. If you use more water, the paint's going to be a lot lighter, and then if you use more pigment and less water, you're going to get a lot more of a saturated situation happening. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.